My name is Claire Dawson. 13 years ago, I disappeared from the life of the man I loved, carrying a secret that could destroy everything. I thought I had buried the past, until the day I received a wedding invitation from my sister. She's about to marry that very man, and everything I've kept hidden is about to explode in the middle of the aisle. Before I share the rest of this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to overcome family heartbreak. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happens next. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were physical therapy days at the clinic, when my hands ached from working with patients and my mind was too tired to build walls against the past. Ethan got to the mail first. At 13, he'd developed this habit of checking for packages, always hoping for basketball gear he'd saved for online. But that day, he held an ivory envelope, confusion clouding his face. "Mom, this is fancy, like really fancy." My sister Madison's handwriting curved across the front in gold ink. Even her penmanship had always been perfect, like everything else about her. I took the envelope with hands that suddenly felt clumsy, already knowing what weight it carried. "Madison Dawson and Logan Pierce request the honor of your presence." The room tilted. Logan Pierce. The name I'd trained myself not to think, not to speak, not to let live in the spaces between heartbeats. 13 years of silence, and here it was, printed in elegant script like it didn't represent the complete unraveling of everything I'd built. "Who's Logan Pierce?" Ethan asked, reading over my shoulder. The lie sat ready on my tongue. "Some stranger. Your aunt's fiancé. Nobody important." But my son had my eyes, observant, catching the tremor in my fingers, the way I sank into the kitchen chair like my bones had turned to water. "Mom?" I looked at this boy who carried half of Logan's DNA, who had his father's jawline and my stubbornness. Ethan didn't know he walked through the world with his father's confident stride, that his laugh echoed a sound I'd loved at 22. He's someone I knew, a long time ago. But Ethan was already pulling out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Logan Pierce. Mom, this guy's like CEO of some huge tech company, Pierce Innovations. Why didn't you tell me you knew?" He stopped. The photo on the screen showed Logan at some charity gala, and even through pixels and years, I could see it. The resemblance that time had only sharpened. Ethan's voice came out small, uncertain. "Mom, why do I look like him?" The carefully constructed life I'd built in Seattle, every therapy session, every school pickup, every bedtime story that avoided certain questions, crumbled in that moment. Ethan set down his phone with shaking hands. "I want to meet him, just once, to know where I come from." The invitation lay between us on the table, its gold letters catching the light like a beacon calling us toward a reckoning I'd spent 13 years avoiding. 3 weeks later, we were descending into LAX, the California sun too bright after Seattle's gentle gray. Ethan pressed his face to the window, watching the sprawl of Los Angeles unfold beneath us. He'd been quiet since I'd agreed to go, processing this new reality with a maturity that broke my heart. "You okay?" I asked, though I wasn't sure which of us needed the reassurance more. "Yeah, just thinking." He turned to me, those eyes, Logan's eyes, serious beyond his years. Was he why we never visited Aunt Madison much? The truth was complicated. Madison had visited us exactly 3 times in 13 years, always alone, always brief. She'd send expensive gifts for Ethan's birthdays but never stayed long enough for real conversations. I'd told myself it was her busy lifestyle, her career as a celebrity stylist. But underneath, I knew. She couldn't look at Ethan without seeing what I'd lost, or maybe what she'd wanted. "It's complicated," I said, hating how those 2 words held 13 years of hurt. The hotel in Malibu mocked us with its perfection. Ocean views, marble floors, the kind of casual wealth that made our comfortable Seattle life look like poverty. Ethan whistled low. "This is where they're getting married?" "The Pierces don't do anything small." The words came out more bitter than intended. That's when my phone buzzed. "Madison, heard you're in town. Rehearsal dinner tomorrow, 7 p.m. I saved you seats." My blood chilled. I hadn't told her we were coming. But then I saw Ethan's phone in his hand, Instagram open to Madison's story. "You messaged her?" He had the grace to look guilty. "I wanted to see him, Mom. And she's family, right?" Family. The word sat heavy between us. Madison, who'd known I was pregnant when Logan left. Madison, who'd watched me pack up my life and never asked the right questions. Madison, who was now marrying the father of my child. Did she seem surprised? I asked carefully. No. Ethan frowned. Actually, she said she was hoping we'd come. That night, I stood on the balcony watching waves crash against the shore. Tomorrow, I'd walk into a room full of people who'd deemed me not good enough 13 years ago. But worse, tomorrow, Logan would see his son for the first time, and I had no idea if he'd even recognize what he'd left behind. My phone lit up with another text from Madison. Wear something nice. The press will be there. Press, of course. The Pierce family wedding would be a media event. I thought of the one decent dress I'd packed. Navy, simple, nothing like the designer pieces that would fill that room. But I hadn't come here to impress anyone. I'd come because my son deserved to know where half of him came from, even if that truth arrived wrapped in silk and scandal. The rehearsal dinner venue took my breath away, and not in a good way. Glass walls overlooked the Pacific, chandeliers dripped crystal, and everyone looked like they'd stepped from a magazine. I smoothed my navy dress, acutely aware of every thread that marked it as department store rather than designer. Wow, Ethan breathed beside me. He'd worn his best shirt, the one I'd bought for his spring concert. On him, Simple looked dignified. Claire? A familiar voice made me turn. Madison glided toward us in a silver sheath that probably cost more than my car. Her smile was perfect, practiced. You came. You knew we would. I kept my voice level. Her eyes flicked to Ethan, something unreadable crossing her face. You've grown so tall. Then louder, come, let me introduce you to everyone. She steered us through the crowd like a ship through icebergs. I caught whispers, felt stares. Who is she? Is that Madison's sister? I thought she lived in... Then the crowd parted, and there he was. 13 years had refined Logan Pierce into something harder, sharper. The boy I'd loved was gone, replaced by a man in a perfect tuxedo with perfectly styled hair and a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He was mid-conversation with someone important-looking when he saw us. The champagne flute in his hand trembled. His gaze found mine first, a collision of past and present that knocked the air from my lungs. Then, inevitably, it shifted to Ethan. I watched the exact moment recognition hit. Logan's face drained of color. The important person kept talking, but Logan wasn't listening anymore. He was staring at Ethan like he was seeing a ghost or a mirror. Logan, darling. Madison appeared at his elbow, her fingers curling possessively around his arm. You remember my sister Claire, and this is her son, Ethan. Her son, not our son. The distinction cut deep. Logan's mouth opened, closed. Claire. My name came out rough, unpracticed. His eyes never left Ethan's face. Madison didn't mention that I was coming? I kept my voice steady, though my heart hammered traitorously. Surprise! Ethan stepped forward, all teenage bravery and hidden nerves. Nice to meet you, Mr. Pierce. Logan flinched at the formality. His hand extended automatically for a handshake, and I watched my son, our son, take it. The gesture looked rehearsed, hollow. The resemblance, someone nearby murmured, and Madison's grip on Logan tightened. We should mingle, she said brightly, already pulling him away. But Logan's eyes stayed locked on Ethan until the crowd swallowed them. Claire? The voice behind me was sharp, cultured, and utterly familiar. Barbara Pierce stood there in pearls and judgment, looking exactly as she had the day she'd told me I was ruining her son's future. How dare you come here? She hissed, low enough that only I could hear. Leave, now, if you have any self-respect left. But Ethan had heard. My son, my brave boy, stepped between us. We were invited, he said simply. We have every right to be here. Barbara's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, someone called her name. She left with a parting glare that promised this wasn't over. Mom, Ethan said quietly. She knows, doesn't she? She knows who I am. I couldn't lie anymore. Yes, baby, she knows. The wedding day dawned perfect, because of course it did. The universe had a sick sense of humor, painting the sky brilliant blue while my world prepared to implode. Ethan adjusted his tie for the 10th time. You sure about this? No, but we were already here, already past the point of turning back. The ceremony venue was even more spectacular than the rehearsal dinner. White roses everywhere, an altar overlooking the ocean, 200 of California's elite in their seats. We sat in the back row, invisible until we chose not to be. Madison floated down the aisle like a dream in white. Logan waited at the altar, handsome and hollow-eyed. He'd been searching the crowd, I realized, looking for us. The officiant's voice carried over the sound of waves. "Dearly beloved." My phone vibrated. "Mark Reynolds, I'm here, 3 rows behind you. Say the word." I'd called my old law school friend in desperation last night, spilling 13 years of secrets. He'd listened, then said simply, "I'll be there. If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace." The moment stretched like taffy. Madison's smile was radiant. Logan's jaw clenched. 200 people held their breath. Then Ethan stood. "I object." Gasps rippled through the crowd like dominoes falling. Cameras appeared from nowhere. Of course, the society wedding of the year would have press. "Because he's my father." The words dropped like bombs. Logan went rigid. Madison's bouquet trembled. Barbara Pierce shot to her feet. "Security," she called. "Remove these people." But Ethan was already walking forward, pulling papers from his jacket. "My birth certificate, Logan Pierce, father, Claire Dawson, mother, born 13 years and 9 months ago." "Lies!" Barbara's voice cracked. "Fabrications!" That's when Mark stood, his courtroom presence filling the space. "Not lies, Mrs. Pierce. I have documentation of the private investigator you hired 13 years ago. The one you paid to convince Logan that Claire had terminated the pregnancy." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Logan stared at his mother, then at me, then at Ethan. "You said she—" His voice broke. "You told me she—" "I protected you," Barbara shrieked, "from ruining your life with some nobody." But Madison laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bitter, wild. "God, Logan, did you really never wonder? Never question?" She turned to the crowd, wedding dress swirling. "The truth always finds its way out, doesn't it?" She looked directly at me then, and in her eyes I saw it. She'd known. All along, she'd known. "I'm done with this family," she announced, pulling off her veil. "The wedding's off." She walked back down the aisle, head high, leaving chaos in her wake. The reception hall became a war zone. Press swarmed like vultures while security tried to maintain order. Logan stood frozen at the altar, his perfect world in pieces around him. "Get Ethan out," Mark urged, but my son stood firm. "No, I came here for answers." Madison found us in the chaos, her wedding dress incongruous with her sharp smile. "Sister, we need to talk." She pulled us into a side room, away from the madness. Up close, her makeup was smeared, her careful facade cracking. "You knew," I said. It wasn't a question. "Of course I knew." She laughed again, bitter as wine turned to vinegar. "Perfect Claire, pregnant with the Golden Boy's baby. Mom and Dad were so worried about you." "Then why didn't I say anything?" Madison sank into a chair, yards of tulle pooling around her. "Because I was 22, and jealous, and stupid. Because Logan chose you first, and I couldn't stand it." The truth was smaller than I'd imagined, and somehow that made it worse. Not some grand conspiracy, just petty jealousy metastasized into life-altering betrayal. But why marry him now? Pierce Innovations is bleeding money. Madison's smile turned predatory. "Logan's been hiding it, but I know. This wedding was supposed to secure a merger with my company's biggest client, save the Pierce empire." She looked at Ethan. "Guess your timing ruined that plan." "You used him." "We all use people, Claire. You used his absence to play the perfect single mother. I used his guilt to get a ring. Barbara used lies to control him." She stood, shedding dignity like the designer shoes she kicked off. "At least I'm honest about it." She left us there, and suddenly Logan appeared in the doorway. He looked destroyed, tie askew, eyes red-rimmed. "Is it true?" he asked hoarsely. "Everything my mother did?" "Yes." He stared at Ethan like a man seeing the sun after 13 years underground. "I hired investigators 5 years ago. She told me you'd remarried, moved on, that I'd only hurt you by reappearing. And you believed her. Again. I was a coward." The admission came raw, honest. "I'm still a coward." Ethan spoke for the first time since the altar. "I don't need a father who's here out of guilt." The words hit Logan like physical blows. "I understand. But maybe," my son continued, surprising us both, "I could use one who's here out of choice." Logan's composure finally cracked. He sank into a chair, head in his hands. I don't deserve that chance. No, I agreed. You don't. Mark appeared in the doorway. Press is getting aggressive. We should go. As we left, I looked back once. Logan sat alone in that empty room, surrounded by wedding flowers meant for a union built on lies. Back at the hotel, Ethan sprawled on his bed, emotionally drained. That was intense. That's one word for it. I kicked off my heels, feeling every one of my 35 years. A knock interrupted our decompression. I opened the door to find Logan, still in his ruined tuxedo. 5 minutes, Ethan said from behind me. You get 5 minutes. I let him in. He sat on the edge of the desk chair like he might bolt at any moment. I loved you, he started, then stopped. No, that's not. I need to say this right. He looked at Ethan. When your mother told me she was pregnant, I panicked. Not because I didn't want you, but because I was 25 and terrified of disappointing everyone. So you disappointed her instead, Ethan said flatly. Yes. My mother said Claire had ended the pregnancy, that she'd taken money to disappear. I was relieved. His voice broke on the admission. God help me, I was relieved not to have to choose. But you did choose, I said. You chose to believe the easy lie. I chose to be a coward, and I've been choosing that every day since. Mark knocked and entered without waiting. Sorry to interrupt. Logan, your mother's been feeding information to business rivals. That investigator she hired? He has recordings. She's been planning to force you out of the company. Logan laughed, a broken sound. Of course she has. There's more. The merger Madison mentioned? Your mother sabotaged it months ago. She's been setting you up to fail. Why? Ethan asked, fascinated despite himself. Because I started asking questions, Logan said quietly. About Claire, about that time. She knew I was getting close to the truth. The room fell silent. Then Ethan spoke, wisdom beyond his years evident. You're all so broken. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. Logan flinched anyway. I don't want to be, Logan said. I want to be better. For you. For both of you. Wanting isn't enough, I said. I know, that's why I'm moving to Seattle. The announcement hung in the air. Ethan straightened. What? Pierce Innovations has been looking at Northwest expansion. I'll oversee it personally. No promises, no pressure, just proximity. A chance to earn what I should have fought for 13 years ago. Mom? Ethan looked at me, uncertain. I saw my boy, caught between hope and self-protection. Saw Logan, finally ready to fight for something real. Saw myself, tired of running from a ghost. We'll see, I said finally. Actions, not words. Logan nodded and left. Ethan and I sat in silence, processing the earthquake that had shaken our carefully constructed world. 6 months passed in a blur of small gestures and careful boundaries. Logan kept his word, opening a Seattle office and maintaining respectful distance. He showed up to Ethan's basketball games, sitting several rows back until Ethan waved him closer. He sent texts, not demands. He learned patience. I started a blog about single motherhood, needing somewhere to pour the complicated emotions. The first post went viral. When your ex marries your sister, a single mom's guide to surviving family weddings. Dark humor became my weapon. Truth, my shield. Madison vanished to Europe, her Instagram full of yacht parties and new men. She sent one message. I'm sorry, not enough, but true. I didn't respond. Some bridges were meant to stay burned. Barbara Pierce made headlines when the board voted her out. Mark's evidence had been damning. She'd bled the company for years, planning to blame Logan and seize control. Instead, she lost everything. I felt no satisfaction, only tired relief. Mom, look. Ethan showed me his phone. Logan had texted asking if he could come to the father-son basketball camp next month. What do you think? What do you think? I think... He paused, considering. I think maybe people can change, if they really want to. So, Logan came to basketball camp. I watched from the bleachers as they navigated this new dynamic. Awkward at first, then gradually more natural. Logan learning Ethan's rhythms, Ethan testing boundaries. He's trying, a voice said beside me. Another single mom who'd heard our story through the Seattle parenting grapevine. That's more than most do. It was. Logan was trying with a determination I'd never seen in our youth. He took parenting classes, read books on teenage development, asked questions, and actually listened to the answers. One evening, he brought Thai food, remembered my order after 13 years. We ate on the apartment balcony while Ethan did homework inside. "I'm seeing a therapist," he said quietly, "working through everything. My mother, my choices, the lies I told myself." "Good. Claire, He stopped, started again. "I know I can't undo the past, but I want you to know that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. Losing both of you." "We weren't lost," I corrected. "You threw us away." "Yes, I did. And I'll regret that until I die." We sat in silence, watching Seattle's skyline twinkle. Inside, Ethan laughed at something on his computer. My boy, resilient and whole despite everything. "I'm not ready," I said finally. "I may never be ready." "I know. I'll take whatever you're willing to give, even if that's just being Ethan's father." "Especially that," I said. "He comes first. Always." "Always," Logan agreed. Spring arrived like a tentative promise. My blog had grown into something unexpected. A community of parents sharing their stories of betrayal and redemption. Publishers were calling, wanting to turn it into a book. "You should do it," Logan said over coffee. We'd progressed to weekly coffee, discussing Ethan's schedule and nothing deeper. "Your writing helps people." "Maybe." I watched cherry blossoms drift past the cafe window. Madison sent another message. His jaw tightened. Madison remained the ghost between us, the reminder of how tangled our history was. "She's getting married. Again, some Italian count." "Good for her." His tone suggested otherwise. "She wants to reconcile. Says she's done therapy, found herself." And? "And I'm tired of being angry." The admission surprised me. "Not forgiveness, exactly. Just release." Logan studied his coffee like it held answers. "I dream about that day sometimes. The wedding. Keep wondering what would have happened if I'd known sooner." "Nothing would have happened sooner," I said firmly. "You weren't ready. Neither was I, honestly. We needed these 13 years to become who we are now." "Who are we now?" I considered. "Parents, adults, people who've learned that love isn't enough without trust and courage." "I love you." The words fell between us like stones in still water. I never stopped. "I know I have no right to say it, but Logan, I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. I love you, and I love our son, and I'll spend whatever time I have left proving it through actions, not words." My phone buzzed. "Ethan. Game starting in 20. You both coming?" I showed Logan the text. "Both of us." "He's starting to see us as a unit," Logan said carefully. "For him, as his parents." "Of course." But as we walked to the gym, something had shifted. The weight I'd carried for 13 years felt lighter. Not gone, but manageable. The game was close, Ethan playing his heart out. When he scored the winning basket, he looked to the stands, found both of us, grinned. Logan cheered beside me, proud and present. "Good game," Coach called out. "Team dinner at Antonio's? Parents welcome." "Can we go?" Ethan asked, breathless and happy. "All of us?" I looked at Logan, saw the hope he was trying to hide. Thought about walls and bridges, about holding on and letting go. "Okay," I said. "All of us." At dinner, surrounded by teenagers and tired parents, we looked almost normal. A family, fractured but healing. Ethan laughed at his teammates' jokes, occasionally glancing at us like he was checking we were still there. We were. Later, Logan walked us to our car. "Thank you," he said simply. "Don't thank me yet. We have a long way to go." "I know, but it's a start." As I drove home, Ethan was quiet. Then, "Mom, I think I'd be okay if you gave him another chance. When you're ready, if you ever are." "What makes you think I'd want that?" He smiled, wise beyond his years. "Because you look lighter, like you're not carrying as much anymore, and out of the mouths of babes." That night, I wrote the final blog post in this chapter of our story. Happiness doesn't come from revenge or reclaiming what was lost. It comes from knowing you deserve a fresh start and being brave enough to take it. Even if that start looks nothing like you imagined. Even if it means rewriting every plan you made. Sometimes the best endings are actually beginnings in disguise. I hit publish and closed my laptop. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices. But tonight, my son was happy. I was healing, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Outside, spring rain began to fall, washing the world clean.
Never let the pain of the past dictate your future. Forgiveness isn't about making them worthy. It's about setting yourself free. Be brave enough to move forward, because sometimes happiness comes from daring to start over, even when it means rewriting your entire story.